Fa, la, do, la, fa.
Okay, so now we're going to put those together. Sing. Then we'll sing.
Do, mi, so, mi, do. Fa, la, do, la, fa. Do, mi, so, mi, do.
Okay, very good. Then next, we're going to sing. We're just going to sing mi, me, ma, mo, mu on E. And what I want you to do is when you get to mu, the fifth one, I want you to just hold it out until I cut you off. So make sure that you take a big enough breath before we start this so that you have enough air to hold out the last note. Okay.
Mi, ma, mo, mu.
Okay, make sure you take a huge breath when we're starting, because that 5-note phrase is kind of long, and then plus you have to hold the last one even longer, so make sure you have enough air. So,
Mi, me, ma, mo, mu.
okay, that was much better. Now I'd like to do an exercise with legato. So we're just going to sing a 5-note scale on, we can just sing on do, so E. Then we're going to go. So 5 notes up, then back down, and then down to 3 and back up. Got it? Okay.
Do, do, do,
Okay, now I'd like you to think about making that whole thing like it's one long connected line. So you're going on different notes, like higher and then lower, but they're all part of the same long phrase. So take a deep breath and then just let your air continue to go through smoothly so that it all flows together. So let's try that again. Okay, that was much better. Now if you could turn to away from the roll of the C in your package. So this is a song that was written by a composer from Canada, and he wrote it, what I read is based on a picture that he saw of some ships that were in the harbor. And if you think about ships that are like tied up in the harbor, they're still on the water, so there's like a sense of movement when there's waves going by and such. But they're not sailing off anywhere, they're just kind of staying in that same general area. So if you even just look at like the beginning part of the piano accompaniment here, there's kind of a sense of going up and down, but the note in the left hand stays the same always, so it's like in a fairly confined area. So what I'd like to do first is just sing through your melody from where it comes in measure 5 through measure 15. So first time I'll play along the notes with you in case you have any questions, and then we'll just try that by itself. So. And then you can just sing on do, and we won't go those words right now. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
notice there's a dotted line between the C sharp of serene and then give, and that's because they don't want you to take a breath there. So take a good breath at the beginning before you start, and then if you need to take a breath somewhere in that phrase, you can just stagger them so you're not all breathing at the same time. Somewhere before serene, so that that note is nice and strong and you can push through that and then go right into the next phrase. Kind of the same thing with the text as in some of the other pieces we've done, where this is based on a poem. And if you were reading a poem, you would often breathe at places with their punctuation. And you notice there isn't any punctuation there because it's like part of the same sentence. So let's try to do that verse again, starting at small. I want to try singing the words on it this time. And if you need to get a breath in before still and serene, do that, but not all at the same time, so that you can get through that. Okay, here we go.
Small craft in a harbor that's still and serene. Give no indication what their ways have done.
Okay, that was much better. Just still at serene, I kind of get the feeling that you're all dying because you're running out of air there. So, there's not really any good place for you to all take a breath. So just make sure on your own, when you feel you're running out of air, make sure you get a breath before that and have plenty of air for that. Okay, now let's start at measure 15. You hear the melody switches down to the alto part, but I'll just have you all sing it because then there's nothing in the soprano part. And you also notice the melody is almost exactly the same except for at nestled, the word nestled, which relates to still and in the first verse. You have 2 eighth notes instead of 2 quarter notes. So it'll be a little bit different rhythmic feeling, so make sure you watch out for that. Let's just try singing through that, and you can sing on the words. Okay.
Memories on the soaring dream, away from the roll of the sea.
Okay, so this one, if you notice, is a little easier to do because there's rest for breath between dreams and then away from the roll of sea. So let's try singing through the whole thing from the beginning. And let's see. Yeah, let's just try that again, singing on the words and watching out for times when you need to take a breath before long notes. Okay, 1.
Small craft in a harbor that's still and serene. Give no indication what their ways have been. They rock at their moorings on their soul in dreams, away from the roll of the sea.
Okay. Another thing, paying attention to the text. If you notice in the first verse, no indication what their ways have been. When we're speaking, we usually say like been, but in this poem, it's tend to be at least somewhat of a rhyme with serene. So it sounds a little odd to us to say been, but kind of think of something in between been and also, they rock at their, should be moorings. It can be a tendency to say moorings, but with the two O's, it's more of an oo sound on that word. And also, I'd like to think a little bit about dynamics, okay? So let's just go through the first phrase from small craft through what their ways have been. And then I liked a little bit of crescendo. You can start out softer at small, and then into harbor, that's still a little bit of crescendo, and then coming back down to serene. So let's just start from the beginning again.
Small craft in a harbor that still and serene.
Okay, the crescendo was very good, and then the decrescendo suddenly plummeted down to almost nothing. So let's try that one last time, and still think about what we talked about before with having enough air and support to get through that note. So you do want it to be quieter than what was before that, but we still need to hear it.